Welcome to We Don't Have Cookies with your host, Jason Marshall.
Hey everybody, thanks for downloading the show. Today's episode is the guest of Cookies Future. I will be talking to people who are joining the We Don't Have Cookies family. Some are joining for the first time, and others are coming back after being gone for a while. This is going to be a shorter show. I'll explain everything after I talk to my next guest, but first, here is a quick song.
Santa's coming and he's gonna kick your ass, he's gonna kick your ass, he's gonna kick your ass. Santa's coming and he's gonna kick your ass, 'cause you've always been a rotten little brat. Reindeer coming and they're gonna bite your teeth, they're gonna chew your welcome mat, swallow your kitty cat. Reindeer coming and they're gonna eat your begonias, 'cause Santa hasn't fed them in a month. Santa's coming and he's gonna kick your ass, he's gonna kick your ass, he's gonna kick your ass. Santa's coming and he's gonna kick your ass, 'cause he's sick of shoveling snow and reindeer poo. Elves are coming and they're gonna steal your turkey, wreck your TV, burn down your Christmas tree. Elves are coming and they're gonna trash your home, 'cause they ain't got nothing else to do. Santa's loaded with attitude, he's loud and drunk and smelly and rude. His workshop's been closed by an auditor, and Mrs. Claus ran off with her chiropractor. Oh, Santa's coming and he's gonna kick your ass, he's gonna kick your ass, he's gonna kick your ass. Santa's coming and he's gonna kick your ass, 'cause he's had a really crappy year.
My bum hurts.
Joining me now is a former Miss Connecticut USA turned comedian and so much more, Kristina Hughes.
Hi, guys. It's great to be here.
Kristina, I love your tagline, the queen of fancy with a flair for the swear.
I hope Joan Rivers is smiling down on me a little bit, because I kind of feel like I want to take off where she left off, because I love being glamorous and getting dressed up on stage. I think, especially now as a mom, going on stage is like a night to just celebrate, because I don't have to wear workout clothes on stage. You know, people need a little bit of good cussing here and there. It wakes people up. It's unexpected.
I have to ask, I don't know why this was running through my mind yesterday, but I wanted to know what your talent was in the Miss Connecticut USA pageant, because in my head, I have this image of you either coming out in your evening wear, and then the next part is the talent show. And instead of changing, you still come out in the very nice dress. You just have a clear plastic over it. And you do a Gallagher-esque stand-up show where you're just smashing watermelon.
Oh, boy. If only. If only. Well, this is the common misconception about pageant girls. I was in the Miss USA pageant. You are referring to the Miss America pageant. So what I like to say is, in the Miss USA pageant, we are judged on beauty, poise, and personality. And if you were looking at me, I'd be pointing at my left breast and my right breast. And the ability to communicate effectively, if you know what I'm saying. So the Miss USA pageant isn't based on a scholarship system for a talent, whereas the Miss America pageant is. So there's no singing, dancing, baton twirling, cup playing. There's none of that stuff in the Miss USA system. It's more about, we're trying to find a woman, and when she wins and becomes Miss USA, not only will she go to Miss Universe, but ultimately as Miss USA, she will be the spokesperson for all the other women that have been competing in the pageants, and for the sponsors of the pageant, going to charity events, going to red carpet events. And so they're really looking more for a woman who is a head turner, but has something inside of that head, and also someone who's healthy and fit. And that's why the swimsuit portion happened years ago. So it's not about being super sexy, although yes, sometimes the bikinis look like, a few pieces of dental floss woven together. So it's really more about celebrating your shape and not what size is that shape and how big are those shapes. So sorry, no plastic bag over the evening gown. But maybe I'll try that someday on stage. Might hurt, though. Might hurt.
How long have you been doing stand-up now?
I believe it was on September 14th, 2014. I had my first stand-up comedy debut at Flappers Comedy Club in Burbank. It was part of a graduation of a class that I had been taking with Jerry Corley, who used to write for The Tonight Show. And so previous to that, pardon me, I've also been an actor and I've hand model and a host and all that sort of thing. But previous to that, my partner in crime, Brian Vermeer, who you'll be hearing from at some point on this show, he has been a headlining stand-up comedian, and I have been the dutiful, very supportive partner or girlfriend in the beginning. And I have gone to numerous shows that he's performed at, and I've kind of been sitting on the sidelines going, I think I'd like to throw my crown in the ring instead of hat in the ring. And I think that there is a POV that's not really out there that I'd like to start sharing. And so it's part beauty, it's part rant, it's part, what women really want to do is educate men about certain things that they do that drive us crazy. And I think I have an appealing way of delivering that information that is so necessary in our world today.
Well, you mentioned
pageant girl. Yes.
Well, you mentioned that you've done a lot of acting in the past. Is there anything on the horizon that we can expect to see from you?
I've taken a little bit of time off from actually auditioning at the moment. I have a 16-month-old beautiful baby named Jackson Asher. You can go to his website, jacksonasher.com, if you're interested in seeing how beautiful and stunning he is. He's actually Mr. July in an upcoming calendar for 2018. So I've taken off a little bit of time from actually auditioning, and I've been more focusing this past year on writing some new comedy and recording some bits as audio that I hope to use as perhaps a jump into doing an album, if we can use that word, if that's not sounding too old. He's going to be like, Mom, we don't call them albums. So I've kind of taken a little bit step back from the acting part and more focused on building my stand-up comedy repertoire and contacts within the industry. And in fact, in 2018, Brian and I will be launching one of probably 4 shows. It's like an idea, and then there's some spin-off shows, and more focused on the comedy and the hosting and just being personalities, as opposed to playing cops and lawyers and doctors and that sort of thing. Not saying that I won't go back to it, but right now I'm really into having some creative control, especially since my time is limited. And I know when I do a project, I can count on myself to get things done. Whereas I'm sure if there are any actors listening, many of you have gotten involved in projects that never see the light of day, and your family's still asking you, when is that movie coming out? When is that web channel going to release your video? And you're like, I don't know. I worked on it. I got paid and I have pictures, but I can't help you. So sometimes what happens, people who are listening, who are friends of performers, give them a break. Sometimes it takes 5 years for a movie to get edited and sold and marketed. And, we want to poke our eyes out because we love it when you ask, when is that show coming out? When is that movie going to be released? But sometimes we just don't know because other people have control. It's all about control.
The reason I wanted to have you on here today is Kristina is going to be doing a segment for the podcast. I'm really excited about it. Would you like to tell people what they can expect to hear from you?
Well, it's definitely going to have a rant part, but it will still be fancy. And I think unique creative POVs. And instead of just doing an audio recording and sending it in, we've dressed it up and edited it with some cool sound effects. Some are pretty disgusting and raunchy. Some are salacious. I'm okay with that. And I think, are we calling the segment "It's So Fancy"? Is that what we're calling it? What are we calling this segment that we're doing with you guys?
It was going to be Time to Get Fancy.
Time to Get Fancy. Yeah. Right. It's time to get fancy. Kind of taken from that Iggy Azalea song from so long ago, right?
That's right. Well, everybody out there listening, make sure you follow her on Twitter at Fancy Comedy and check out her website, fancycomedy.com. I'll have links to both of those in the show notes. Is there anything that you'd like to promote before you go?
Other than what you just did, I love that you're asking people to take action and stalk me on Fancy Comedy on YouTube. On YouTube, also, there's a YouTube channel, Fancy Comedy, and Twitter, and yeah, everything that's Fancy Comedy, every social media profile I've tried to secure the name, but certainly listen to the show, and if you've got any feedback, if you want to do a little tete-a-tete about, my upcoming bit called Gender Neutral, if you think that really, really, really men and women are supposed to be in the same bathroom, then you can write to me on my website, fancycomedy.com, and I will write back, or I will voice back, maybe.
Well, thanks for doing the show today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I'm really excited about what 2018 has to offer for all of us. So I want to encourage everybody to continue to support live performances, go to a comedy club, support a comic, get away from your computer once in a while, will ya? And enjoy a night on the town. Or if you're feeling creative, start writing your own stuff and do some open mics. That's where the brave part really happens, I think. Some people, they're like, oh, it's so easy. Oh, I can do it. I can do it. For me, I've been in a bikini on stage in front of 300 million people. I think it can handle, a little tete-a-tete with some audience members. I think it can handle delivering some stand-up comedy. But I love it when people think it's so easy and they do an open mic night and they're like, oh my God, it was terrible. I was so nervous. I went up with my notes and I couldn't do anything. So,
especially an open mic at a bar as opposed to an open mic at a comedy club. Two different scenes.
Brian refers to those as hell gigs, especially if you're like a comedian and you're opening for a band or something. Like, nobody wants to hear the comedy. They're there to listen to music. And if you want to talk about throwing watermelons or tomatoes or whatever, you can see that. Years ago, we went to an open mic night at a bar down the street called Molly Malone's. And, the people in the audience, they didn't now want to hear the comedian. And Brian was up there. I think he was hosting the open mic because it wasn't like a regular thing, or we were doing research. I think that what it might have been. And, those people are not kind. Not kind. Not kind.
Yeah, it's a rough crowd most every time.
Yeah, no matter where you are.
All right, well, we're going to take a break real quick. Going to play a song by the Arrogant Worms, and we'll be back.
Bye, everyone.
Christmas is almost here. Christmas is almost here. Christmas is almost here.
Just 5 days till Christmas. I haven't done a thing. Don't even have a Christmas tree. I am panicking. Most lots are all sold out. I search until the night. I end up with the grubby shrub with a case of blight.
Christmas is almost here. Christmas is almost here. Christmas is almost here.
It's 4 days till Christmas, so I'll have to decorate. Spend hours in the basement until I find a crate of lights and bulbs and popcorn strings tangled in a knot. Then I spend the day separating what I've got.
Christmas is almost here. Christmas is almost here. Christmas is almost here.
3 days till Christmas, spend all day writing cards. I started writing letters, now I just say best regards. I shove them in the mailbox, and to the mall I go to get gifts for Jim and Dame and Tim and Uncle Joe and Aunt Mavis and Beatrice and Grandpa and Granny and It's 2 days till Christmas, a million things to do. Clean the house, put on tea, company is due. Where are my relatives? Why haven't they showed up? I bet they're at the airport, I forgot to pick them up.
Christmas is almost here. 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 Christmas is almost here.
It's finally Christmas. The kids wake me up at 5. Fall downstairs, a messy hair, zombie half alive. Spend all day serving company,
then fall down inert. If these are my holidays, I'd rather stay at work.
All right, guys, I gotta be honest with you. I was supposed to have a lot more people on the show today. Unfortunately, things just didn't work out the way I had planned. One person wanted to do the show, but they couldn't because they're filming a movie right now and wanted to relax in their free time, and I totally understand that. Another person, they're a very well-known athlete, and I've been working on making this person part of the cast for a few weeks now. I've been emailing back and forth with this person's manager's assistant, and hopefully they'll be on very soon and we can announce something then. There will be a few more segment contributors joining the show. I don't want to announce them until they're able to do the podcast, though. All I can say for now is there's a lot to look forward to in 2018. The big announcement that I was planning on making today is kind of up in the air now. When I talked about it on the show, it was pretty much a done deal, but there was going to be two parts to that announcement. Thankfully, what happened didn't have anything to do with me, so part of the announcement could still happen. Who knows? Maybe the whole thing's still going to happen. Like I said, it's up in the air. I have no idea. It's been crazy lately. What I will say is I was going to announce my involvement with a pretty big network. They were going to make my podcast a part of it, and I was going to be hosting one of their podcasts twice a week. I was hoping to have the owner of the network on the show today to talk about it. He's a very well-known person in certain circles, and in those circles, he's a very controversial person as well, so it would have been a lot of fun to talk to him, but like I said, things happen. I think being on that network is still in the realm of possibilities, though, and hopefully it'll be a nice announcement in the new year. 2018 is going to be a very big year for the podcast, so now's a good time to spread the word about the show, and if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you do. The podcast is available on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, and everywhere podcasts are available, including YouTube and Roku. You don't want to miss what's coming up, and if you subscribe, you won't. That's it for this episode. I'll be back on Monday with the Christmas show.
Thanks for listening. Tell your friends about the show and leave a review. See you next time.
It's time to get fancy.